The Netherlands is a place where reality defies geography. This small European nation has built a global reputation on remarkable feats, crafting new land from the sea, engineering defenses against storms, pioneering social freedoms, and thriving as a cultural and economic powerhouse. It matters because the Dutch story is a living lesson in resilience and innovation. In a world grappling with rising seas and social change, the Netherlands offers a blueprint, born of necessity and refined over centuries, for how to adapt and prosper. From its low-lying polders to its vibrant cities, the country invites us to look past cliches of windmills and tulips and discover a deeper narrative of human ingenuity, cooperation, and courage. This explainer journeys through the Netherlands' past and present, breaking down complex ideas into vivid stories and insights that reveal how a land below the sea level has continually risen above expectations. A cluster of old Dutch windmills stands against a dawn sky on reclaimed polderland, a testament to centuries of battling the sea. The very name Netherlands means Low Countries, and for good reason. Over a quarter of its territory lies below sea level, a fact that could have spelled doom if not for Dutch ingenuity. Historically, much of the region was marsh and sea. As early as the Middle Ages, inhabitants began building polders, tracts of land encircled by dikes and drained by windmill-powered pumps, to reclaim farmland from the North Sea. This relentless effort has added roughly 17% to the country's land area. The transformation is astonishing. What was once open water or swamp is now home to towns, fields of cows, and even a completely new province, Flevoland, established on land reclaimed in the mid-20th century. Standing on this flat, fertile ground, one can literally be standing on former seabed, proof that the Dutch refusal to surrender to nature has reshaped the map of Europe. Beneath the charm of windmills and tulip fields lies a constant battle with water that shaped the nation's character. The Netherlands' average elevation is only a few meters above sea level, and about half the country sits at just 1 meter or less in altitude. Without human intervention, a huge swath of this land would flood with every high tide. This precarious geography forced a culture of collaboration. Communities established water boards as early as the 13th century, among Europe's first democratic institutions, to manage dikes and canals collectively. The so-called polder model, a spirit of consensus and cooperation, grew directly from the need to keep everyone's feet dry. Today, visitors might marvel at postcard scenes of canal-lined cities and pastoral farmlands. But each tranquil vista is the product of centuries of planning, engineering, and communal effort. The lowland of the Netherlands is not just a quirk of nature, it's a monument to human resilience. Living below the sea has made the Dutch masters of water management. To protect their hard-won land, they constructed an extensive network of dikes, dunes, and dams that hold the North Sea at bay. Giant earthen barriers line the coasts and rivers, while pumps and canals continuously drain excess water. In the southwestern delta, where major European rivers meet the sea, the Netherlands undertook one of the largest engineering projects in history, the Delta Works. Built between 1954 and 1997, this series of 13 dams and storm surge barriers is the world's largest flood protection system. Its most impressive piece, the Oosterscheldekering, stretches 9 kilometers with massive sluice gates that normally remain open to let tides in and out, but can slam shut during North Sea storms. Conceived after a devastating North Sea flood in 1953 that killed over 1,800 people, the Delta Works shortened the coastline and fortified the nation against a repeat disaster. As a testament to its success, the Netherlands hasn't suffered a major coastal breach since, an almost unimaginable feat for a country where 55% of the territory is considered at risk of flooding. The Dutch approach to water is both audacious and adaptive. Beyond the concrete and steel of dams, they are now embracing living with water philosophies. Recent projects like Room for the River purposefully give rivers more space to overflow safely, creating spillways and washlands instead of trying to confine every drop. On the coast, innovative solutions such as the sand motor use nature to the engineer's advantage. A man-made peninsula of sand gradually disperses along shores, naturally reinforcing dunes and beaches against erosion. This forward-thinking mindset acknowledges that climate change may push the limits of traditional defenses. Yet, standing on top of a Dutch dike, with the sea on one side and green polder on the other, one feels the centuries of expertise that make the Netherlands arguably the best prepared country on earth for battling the ocean's fury. The conversation here is never about if the water will come, but how to manage it when it does. A delicate dance of engineering and respect for nature's power. In the 17th century, the Netherlands vaulted onto the global stage in a golden age of trade and culture. A once peripheral patchwork of provinces became the Dutch Republic, a maritime powerhouse and the wealthiest nation in Europe. Dutch ships dominated global commerce. By 1670, their merchant fleet was about half of Europe's total shipping capacity, ferrying spices, silks, and sugar from Asia and the Americas. Amsterdam transformed into the world's busiest port and a financial center. In 1602, the Dutch founded the Dutch East India Company, VOC, and, in the process, created the world's first official stock exchange to trade its shares. Capitalism and globalization as we know them today have some of their earliest roots in this era of Dutch enterprise. Prosperity at home surged. Historians estimate that by the mid-1600s, the Dutch enjoyed the highest per capita income in the world. This affluence funded a breathtaking cultural flourishing. Rembrandt, Vermeer, and other masters turned Amsterdam into a cradle of art, and even science and philosophy thrived in the tolerant atmosphere of the Republic. Yet the Golden Age had its shadows. The same winds that filled Dutch sails also carried the weight of colonialism and slavery. Dutch traders were deeply enmeshed in the Atlantic slave trade, transporting an estimated 500,000 Africans into bondage in the Americas between the 17th and 19th centuries. In Asia, the VOC established colonial rule over the rich spice islands of Southeast Asia, today's Indonesia, extracting resources at great human cost. The pursuit of wealth led to history's first speculative financial bubble, tulip mania. In the 1630s, a craze for exotic tulip bulbs gripped Dutch society. At its height, single tulip bulbs sold for more than 10 times a craftsman's annual salary, before the market spectacularly crashed in 1637. This often mythologized episode, where a flower became as valuable as a house, reflects the spirit of the age, a heady mix of innovation, risk-taking, and excess. The legacy of the Golden Age is thus double-edged. It gave the Netherlands enduring riches and artistic treasures, while also entangling it in global injustices that would reverberate for centuries. The Netherlands' colonial empire once spanned the globe, and its echoes are visible in Dutch society today. From the East Indies, Indonesia, to the West Indies, Suriname and Caribbean islands, the Dutch amassed territories and trade outposts that enriched the mother country, but often brutalized local populations. In Indonesia, Dutch rule lasted over 300 years, funneling spices, tea, rubber, and oil to Europe until Indonesia's hard-fought independence in 1949. In the Caribbean and Suriname, the Dutch planted sugar and coffee plantations powered by enslaved labor. Although slavery was abolished in the Dutch Empire in 1863, the aftermath is still felt. Communities of Dutch citizens with Indonesian, Surinamese, Caribbean, and African heritage are a direct result of that era. By the 20th century, as colonialism waned, the Netherlands had to reconcile its self-image as a progressive, humane nation with these darker chapters of exploitation. The societal conversation continues. In recent years, Dutch cities and institutions have started formally acknowledging and apologizing for the nation's role in the slave trade, and debates flare over how to address colonial-era figures and symbols in public spaces. Today's Netherlands is a vibrant tapestry of cultures, owing in part to this colonial past and subsequent waves of immigration. About 4.8 million residents, roughly 27% of the population, have at least one parent born abroad. Walking the streets of Amsterdam or Rotterdam, one hears Dutch mixed with Turkish, Arabic, Sri-Lankan, and Indonesian dialects, languages reflecting the post-colonial migrations and labor recruitment of the 20th century. Communities from Morocco and Turkey grew after the 1960s as guest workers settled permanently. People from Suriname and the Caribbean parts of the kingdom moved en masse, especially around 1968, Suriname's independence in 1975. And everyday life. You can find Indonesian satay, Surinamese roti, and Turkish baklava in any Dutch city. It has also presented challenges as the nation grapples with issues of integration, identity, and racism that many multicultural societies face. The assassination of filmmaker Theo van Gogh in 2004 by an extremist and the rise of anti-immigrant political voices in recent decades shocked a country known for tolerance. Yet, the broader Dutch response has been to double down on dialogue and inclusivity. The Netherlands is actively confronting its historical myths, recognizing that its colonial golden age built a diverse but complex modern society, one still striving to ensure that everyone truly belongs. Despite its modest size, the Netherlands boasts an outsized economic clout on the world stage. With 18 million people in a land area barely larger than Maryland, it has become the world's 18th largest economy by nominal GDP. The Dutch economy is highly developed and remarkably diverse. It is powered by a mix of trade, manufacturing, high-tech innovation, and services. The Netherlands is a trading nation at heart. Its location at Europe's crossroads has made it a logistics hub. Rotterdam, Europe's largest port, handles immense volumes of cargo from all corners of the globe, while Schiphol Airport near Amsterdam is one of the busiest in the world, connecting Dutch business to every continent. This infrastructure, coupled with a tradition of free trade, means that the Dutch per capita income ranks among the world's highest. As of 2023, the Netherlands had the 11th highest GDP per person globally, reflecting a standard of living that includes universal healthcare, excellent public transport, and a well-funded education system. Key to the Dutch economic miracle is innovation and adaptability. The country has a knack for finding new niches, from being early players in electronics and finance to embracing the digital age. Companies like Royal Philips, founded in 1891, drove the electronics boom, while today Dutch startups and research institutions lead in fields like microchip machinery. ASML, a world leader in semiconductor equipment, is Dutch. Sustainable energy, and biotechnology. Amsterdam has become a tech and creative industry hub, attracting European headquarters of giants like Netflix, Uber, and Tesla. The labor force here is multilingual, highly educated, and globally minded. Notably, the Dutch work culture prizes efficiency. The Netherlands has some of the world's highest labor productivity rates and also a high incidence of part-time work, reflecting a balance of work and life. The result is a competitive economy that punches well above its weight. For instance, the Netherlands consistently ranks near the top in global innovation and competitiveness indexes. It is also a founding member of the European Union, NATO, the OECD, and the World Trade Organization, using these platforms to amplify its economic voice. In short, this small nation has leveraged openness, creativity, and connectivity to become a big player in global business. It surprises many that a country so urbanized and small is a farming superpower. The Netherlands has revolutionized agriculture to the point of becoming the second largest exporter of agricultural products in the world by value, behind only the United States. This astounding feat is driven by high-tech, high-yield farming methods that squeeze maximum output from minimal land. Dutch greenhouses sprawl across the countryside, not as quaint glass huts but as futuristic food factories. In Westland and Flevoland, you'll find mile after mile of climate-controlled greenhouses producing tomatoes, peppers, and flowers year-round. In fact, the country has nearly 24,000 acres of greenhouses, roughly twice the size of Manhattan, allowing 1 acre of Dutch greenhouse to yield as much produce as 10 acres of open field farming. Inside these glass marvels, everything is optimized. Hydroponic systems feed plants with precision drip nutrition, LED lighting extends growing hours, and sensors ensure not a drop of water is wasted. Dutch farms use only about half a gallon of water to grow a pound of tomatoes, whereas the global average water use for that is over 28 gallons, a staggering efficiency that has attracted global admiration. Endless rows of tomato plants flourish in a Dutch greenhouse, illustrating how technology and precision agriculture fuel the Netherlands' outsized role in feeding the world. The Netherlands' agricultural output is not just about volume, it's about innovation. Dutch agri-science companies have pioneered improvements in seed technology, vertical farming, and sustainable practices. Wageningen University, sometimes called the Silicon Valley of agriculture, is at the forefront of research that has helped Dutch farmers drastically cut pesticide use and greenhouse emissions. Impressively, Dutch agricultural exports hit a record €105 billion in 2021, including not just raw products but also high-value exports like dairy, flowers, and farming technology. The nation is the world's top exporter of flower bulbs and a major supplier of vegetables to Europe. It even leads in meat exports within the EU. For example, it shipped out nearly €8.8 billion worth of meat in 2020. However, this intensive farming comes with challenges. Lately, environmental concerns have sparked debates at home over nitrogen pollution from large numbers of livestock. The Dutch government has pledged to cut nitrogen emissions by half by 2030, a move that may require shrinking the national herd and has prompted fierce protests from farmers. Balancing productivity with sustainability is the next big test for Dutch agriculture. Nonetheless, the tiny country that feeds the world continues to push the boundaries of how to grow more food with less land, less water, and fewer inputs, a critical quest as global demand for food rises. The Netherlands is often seen as a social laboratory, having trailblazed policies that were once radical and now seem prescient. This is the country that first legalized same-sex marriage in the world, back in 2001, when such an idea was almost unthinkable elsewhere. On the very first day the law took effect, Amsterdam's mayor officiated weddings for 4 gay couples, an emotional milestone that cemented the Dutch reputation for tolerance. A year later, in 2002, the Netherlands also became the first nation to legalize euthanasia under strict conditions, allowing terminally ill patients the right to die with dignity. Decades earlier, the Dutch had already pioneered a pragmatic approach to vices. Prostitution was legalized and regulated in 2000, after tolerating it for many years prior, to improve sex workers' safety and health. And perhaps most famously, the Dutch gedoogbeleid, or tolerance policy towards soft drugs, has made cannabis available in coffee shops since the 1970s. While technically still illegal, the sale of small amounts of marijuana is tolerated in licensed establishments, a harm reduction model aiming to separate soft drug use from hard drug markets. This pragmatic streak in Dutch policy is driven by a belief that openly managing social realities works better than moralistic bans. The effects of these experiments have been closely watched by the world. The results often challenge both critics and idealists. The Netherlands' tolerant drug policy, for instance, did not create a stoner paradise as some feared. Dutch rates of cannabis use are moderate, and they have markedly lower rates of hard drug addiction and drug-related deaths than many countries with harsher laws. The Amsterdam model of managing prostitution, with its red light district of legal brothels, has offered sex workers more rights and protection, though debates continue about issues like trafficking and exploitation. Dutch society, for the most part, embraces a live and let live ethos. There's broad public support for LGBTQ+ rights, a significant majority supports same-sex marriage, and comprehensive sex education in schools is the norm, correlating with low teen pregnancy rates. Of course, the Netherlands is not without social tensions. The assassination of populist politician Pim Fortuyn in 2002 and of filmmaker Theo van Gogh in 2004 sparked national soul-searching about the limits of tolerance and the integration of Muslim immigrants. In response, the Dutch have worked to recalibrate policies, for example, requiring new immigrants to attend integration courses and learn Dutch. Still, the country's core belief in individual freedom balanced by social responsibility remains intact. The Netherlands' grand social experiments, whether in marriage, drugs, or end-of-life choices, reflect a society that values pragmatism, empathy, and personal autonomy, often leading where others eventually follow. A typical Amsterdam scene: a bicycle parked on a canal bridge with gabled houses behind, an iconic image that captures only a sliver of Dutch life. The Netherlands conjures a parade of clichés in the popular imagination: endless tulip fields, quaint windmills, everyone riding bicycles, and a permissive Amsterdam where anything goes. There's truth to these images, but also plenty of myth. Take bicycles. Yes, the Dutch really are crazy about them. There are more bikes than people in the country, over 22 million bikes for 18 million residents, and cycling is a way of life. In cities like Amsterdam and The Hague, up to 70% of all journeys are made by bicycle, facilitated by superb infrastructure of bike lanes and parking garages. This bike culture contributes to health and cleaner air, and even extends life expectancy by half a year on average. But the smooth cycling utopia was no accident. It emerged from conscious urban planning since the 1970s, when the Dutch decided to prioritize people over cars after seeing rising traffic deaths. Nowadays, seeing Dutch commuters pedaling in suits or parents ferrying children in back Fiat's cargo bikes is completely normal. It's a charming stereotype that indeed reflects reality, yet it's also a product of policy and culture working hand in hand. Other stereotypes require more nuance. Windmills and tulips, for example, are beloved symbols. The country hosts a National Windmill Day, and fields explode with tulip blooms every spring. Historically, over 10,000 windmills once dotted the landscape for pumping water and grinding grain, though only about 1,000 survive as heritage landmarks today. And tulips, though not native, became an enduring Dutch emblem after that 17th century tulip mania. Tourists might imagine the Netherlands as one big flower garden, but modern Dutch agriculture is more about greenhouses and high-tech than tulip beds. Most tulips are grown for export, and the bulb fields are largely in one region. As for the Netherlands' famously liberal attitudes, the truth is more sober than some might hope. While cannabis is available in coffee shops, the Dutch are not a nation of stoners. In fact, the average Dutch adult's marijuana use rate is lower than that in many countries where it's illegal. The pragmatic approach means such substances are regulated and kept out of the shadows. The red light district in Amsterdam is real, but it's also tightly policed, and recently there are moves to tame party tourism to preserve local dignity. Even the image of the tall, blue-eyed Dutch person is an oversimplification. It's true the Dutch are among the tallest in the world, average male height about 183 centimeters, or 6 feet, and many have the stereotypical Northern European look. But Dutch society today is multi-ethnic and varied. In Rotterdam or Amsterdam, you'll see Dutch of all hues and backgrounds. In short, the Netherlands does live up to many of its stereotypes. It is orderly, bike-friendly, flat, and free-spirited. But it's also a complex, evolving country where everyday life goes far beyond the postcard-perfect images. No nation is more aware of the threat of climate change than the Netherlands. After all, half its land sits barely above the current sea level. As the planet warms, the Dutch are confronting a future where their time-tested flood defenses will face unprecedented strain. Scientific projections are sobering. Even in the best-case low-emissions scenario, global sea levels could be about half a meter higher by 2100. In a high-emissions scenario, a rise of 2 meters by century's end is possible, with as much as 5 meters by 2150 in worst-case outcomes. For a low-lying delta country, such changes demand big decisions. The Netherlands is already investing billions in shoring up and reinventing its protections. Along the coast, sand nourishment, regularly adding sand to beaches and dunes, is being scaled up to keep the North Sea at bay. The ingenious sand motor experiment, a 128-hectare artificial sand peninsula built in 2011, has been allowing natural ocean currents to spread sand along the shoreline, strengthening a whole stretch of coast over time. In cities like Rotterdam, the government is installing water plazas, public squares that double as catchment basins during heavy rains, temporarily storing water to prevent floods in surrounding streets. There's also a push for floating architecture, homes and offices built on pontoons, which rise and fall with water levels, exemplify a mindset of accommodating water rather than constantly fighting it. Even as the Netherlands fortifies itself, there's an understanding that long-term safety may require more radical measures. Some experts openly discuss scenarios for the year 2100 and beyond. For instance, whether to maintain the famous Delta Works barriers or even retreat behind them, letting certain low-lying outer areas revert to sea or marsh to reduce pressure. Ceding land to water, once anathema to the Dutch, is now on the table as a controlled strategy. The Dutch have also committed to ambitious climate mitigation. As an EU member, the Netherlands aims to cut greenhouse gas emissions drastically, by 55% from 1990 levels by 2030, and to net zero by 2050 by 55% from 1990 levels by 2030 of the plan, and to net zero by 2050. A country of windmills is now building vast offshore wind parks in the North Sea. Fittingly, additionally, a country of windmills is now building vast offshore wind parks in the North Sea. Giant Groningen field. Additionally, the Netherlands is phasing out natural gas after earthquakes from drilling highlighted the risks of over-reliance on fossil fuels. In its place, renewable energy capacity is growing and homes are being transitioned to electric heating. Culturally, there's a strong environmental consciousness among the Dutch, exemplified by the popularity of circular economy practices and sustainable design. Amsterdam even has entire neighborhoods experimenting with carbon-neutral living. While the challenges ahead are immense, the Netherlands' history is essentially a training ground. Way out of a drowning fate for centuries is now applying that same tenacity and creativity to thrive in the age of climate change, determined to remain not just on the map, but prosperous and vibrant, well into the next century. In international affairs, the Netherlands often punches above its weight, guided by principles forged from its history of trade and conflict. As one of the founding members of the European Union and NATO, have been architects of multilateral cooperation, believing that working through alliances amplifies their influence and safeguards peace. Nowhere is this more evident than in The Hague, a city some call the legal capital of the world. The Hague hosts over 500 international organizations, including the United Nations International Court of Justice, which has its seat in the Peace Palace, and the International Criminal Court, which prosecutes genocide and war crimes. This concentration of courts and agencies is no accident. It reflects the Netherlands' long commitment to international law and justice. The same nation that birthed jurist Hugo Grotius, a father of international law in the 17th century, today provides a neutral ground where countries and leaders are held accountable under agreed rules. Dutch diplomacy also often focuses on human rights, conflict resolution, and humanitarian aid, in line with its image as a sensible, peace-seeking country. Economically and culturally, the Dutch imprint worldwide is notable. Major Dutch companies like Shell, Unilever, Heineken, and ING are recognized across the globe. Dutch engineers and water management experts are in high demand as consultants for Delta cities from Jakarta to New Orleans, a modern export of hard-earned expertise. Culturally, the Netherlands has given the world not just old masters, but also influential thinkers, Erasmus, Spinoza, and contemporary figures in art and design. Its people enjoy a high quality of life and freedoms that consistently rank the country near the top of global happiness and freedom indices. In 2023 and 2024, the Netherlands was again among the 5 happiest nations on Earth, a fact that reflects not that life is perfect, but that Dutch society manages to provide its citizens with security, prosperity, and social support in good balance. The Dutch knack for coalition building at home, where no single party ever rules outright and compromise is an art, translates to their style abroad. Building consensus, bridging gaps. In a tumultuous world, the Netherlands often serves as a steady, pragmatic voice, championing free trade, climate action, and human rights. For a nation of its size, its contributions to international norms and problem-solving are remarkable. Whether through hosting peace talks, sending peacekeepers, or leading by example in governance, the Netherlands demonstrates how a small country can have a very big impact beyond its borders, far beyond the dikes that protect its own cherished land. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the Netherlands, its history, challenges, and triumphs, please give this video a like, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more insightful explainer content. Your support helps us bring you more stories from around the world.